I was playing an audience just about this size one time, and there was a little girl sitting right about where you're sitting, actually. And after the concert, she came up to me and she stood right here at the edge of the stage. She was about 8 years old, and she said, "I'm a songwriter too." And I usually if somebody comes up to you and says, "I'm a songwriter too," especially somebody as cute and little as that, you just want to kind of pat them on the head and say, "Keep on going, little songwriter. You know, it's all's going to be well." But this little girl, she kind of had her arms folded, and there was kind of this challenge in her eye. You know, she was like, she said it in such a way that made you want to go, "Oh yeah." So I said, "Well, sing me something you wrote then." And she didn't even have any instruments or anything like that. So in my mind, I was kind of going, "Take that, little songwriter." And she said, "All right, I will sing you a song that I wrote. I'll sing you a song that I wrote yesterday on a hike with my mom and dad." And she sang this. "Oh, up in the mountains, late at night, you can look and listen as hard as you might, but you won't hear the sound of the crickets tonight. You won't hear the sound of the crickets tonight. For the crickets have left us, gone far, far away. Oh, the crickets have left, they left during the day. As hard as I work, as hard as I try, I can't make the sound of the crickets cry. As hard as I work, as hard as I try, I can't make the sound of the crickets cry." Yeah, right? And she looked up at me, and I, kind of speechless, looked down at her, and she said, "Now sing me one you wrote." And I could see in her eyes the "take that, songwriter man." And I had a retort. I started to think of a song that I could sing for her, and she said, "No, I want to hear one that you wrote when you were my age." And I was speechless for only a moment, and then I said, "Well, I wrote too many songs when I was your age to remember any of them." And she said, that was a lie, of course, you know. I mean, I knew I could remember precisely the song that I had written when I was her age, and I was not about to bring it to this contest, right? It was a song that me and my brother wrote. My brother in those days was trying to win the heart of Jenny Wild. Jenny Wild lived 4 houses up from us, up the hill, and he wanted to win her heart for good and for keeps, and he was 6 years old, and I was 8, and Jenny was 7, and so my brother and I, knees and elbows, got around a piece of paper and started to write a song for Jenny Wild. And my brother was kind of the principal songwriter, and I was the, you know, kind of the secondary songwriter, but write a word, get a third. So I wasn't complaining at all. And we wrote the song, and we walked it up to Jenny Wild's house and knocked on her door, and she came to the door, and she opened the door, and she said, "Sam, Joe," and I just kind of went. And my brother stepped up, and he stood up tall, and he raised his chin, and he closed his eyes, and he sang the song, and the song went, "I love you, I'll marry you, I love you, I'll marry you, I love you, I'll marry you, goodbye, goodbye, goodbye." Floated off the porch. She grew up to marry somebody else. Yeah, did you say they usually do? Yeah, they almost all but one does, right? Yeah. So. Well, we were not good songwriters. We were not even good songwriters for our age. I mean, there are other people who write songs at that age that are really beautiful. I have a friend whose daughter sang up from the back seat as they were driving along one time. The little girl sang. She was 4 years old, and she sang up from the back seat. She sang, "I see snowflakes falling, snow is on the way, but God knows where I am, and Jesus is in this song." If I had something like that, then I'd have brought it to the contest. But that same girl has an older sister who, when she was 4, the family lived in a little dairy town, and she made up an opera. She composed an opera as she was kind of going around the house doing her daily stuff, and the opera was called "Love in a Dairy," and she was the female protagonist of the opera. The male protagonist of the opera was an imaginary person named Percy. Percy was short for person I'm going to marry. And she would just sing. The opera the plot of the opera revolved around the girl giving Percy a list of unaccomplishable tasks to win her hand. And so the songs in the opera ran along the lines of, "Oh, Percy, you'll have to do better than that if you ever want to win my hand. Go back and try it again." And Percy, imaginary though he was, took off, And she is now a grown-up and thoroughly, unmitigatedly single, I had a lot more success writing songs for kids, for my own children, for example. And they weren't songs really for anybody to hear, they were just songs I was writing for my own kids. I've got an 8-year-old now, and when he was 3, bedtime was song time, and he would ask for, "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star," or "Hush, Little Baby," and one night I got all ready and I said, "What would you like to hear tonight?" And he said, "Dad, sing the Secret Fighter song." And there's no Secret Fighter song. So I did what you would do. I made up a song there on the spot, and I sang, "Secret fighter, running on the ground and climbing in the trees. Secret fighter, crawling on the hands and crawling on the knees. Secret fighter, driving all around in the little yellow cars. Secret fighter, fighting on the ground and reaching for the stars." Yeah! It was a hit, as you can imagine. It was a hit. And every night after that, he wanted to hear Secret Fighter. "Dad, sing Secret Fighter." So we Secret Fightered up every night. And on about the 5th day, I realized that on that first day, he had not, in fact, been asking for Secret Fighter, but Incy Wincy Spider. But, yeah, it's, yeah. In the end, I just quit the field, and I said to the little songwriter, "Will you teach me that song, and we'll call it good?" So I sing it just about everywhere I go. She's probably a grown-up now, and I'm going to sing it for an audience sometime in which she is sitting, and she's going to, sue me. But I did play her a song too, but I played her a song that I had written when I was a grown-up. This is a song. Jerry Linenger was an American astronaut who spent some months aboard the space station Mir, the Russian space station that is now at the bottom of the ocean. But in those days being the 90s, right? The space station was up in the air, traveling around the world at 18,000 miles an hour. And Jerry Linenger spent some months up there, came home, and wrote a book called Off the Planet, which I finally met somebody who had read. And he said it was a lousy book, but nevertheless, he gave a great interview on the radio about it. In outer space, there were fires. There were fires aboard the space station. And what do you do when your space station catches fire? You know, you can't stop, drop, and roll and gather your fellow astronauts and meet outside at the appointed place on the curb until the fire engine shows up, you know. You just got to deal with it. All the time he was up there, he kept an audio diary intended for his 2-year-old son back on Earth. There he was, having the greatest adventure a human being can have, maybe. And all he can think of is what of it he can share with his little one back home. 100 days in outer space, I sailed the starry sea in my $1,000 PJs with my black and white TV. Baby, no one speaks my language, and I cannot drink their tea. And the air all smells of cosmonauts. It's near too much for me, but I watch my baby planet hanging blue inside its bubble full of air. And it turns there in the silence, and my mind can see you turning there. Now the sunrise on the Rockies I could cover with a dime, and the pyramids of Egypt that passed me for the 1,000th time, and 18,000 miles an hour up the universe we climb, and I do my bit for science while my spirit burns and burns. I'm riding in a Winnebago, and there aren't any doors, and I pace and pace the ceiling. I assume you pace the floors. This has changed me for forever. I'm a far, far better man, but I wake up from my sleeping and I cannot find your hand, 'cause I'm a spaceman. So whoa, baby, when this trip is over, and it will be over soon, I'll breathe the air I didn't make. I will gaze up at the moon, and I will walk upon the grasses. I will eat soup from a spoon, and I will not float away when you reach out for me. So reach out for me. Galaxies are not enough without a hand to hold. Let me know I'm not alone, and warm me up from orbit's cold. Did I mention that it's changed me? I'm a far, far better man, but my bones are tired of weightlessness. So ground me if you can, 'cause I'm on space.